When it was over, the boys threatened her. "Don't you dare tell anyone." Mary was the pride of her parents and the darling of her neighborhood. At just 10 years old, she was a top student in her class at Unity Junior Secondary School, located in a bustling semi-urban town. Her brilliance and kind-hearted nature won her the admiration of teachers and peers alike. Her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Ease, were hard-working civil servants. Though their jobs demanded long hours, they ensured Mary and her younger brother, Chinedu, had all they needed materially. But time, that most precious gift, was something they struggled to provide. Mary's brilliance wasn't the only reason she was loved. Her infectious laughter and readiness to help made her a favorite among her neighbors. John, Daniel, and Emmanuel, 15 to 16 years old, were her older friends and protectors. The boys were in JSS 3, 2 years ahead of Mary. Living on the same street as the Ease family, they had grown close over the years. The boys escorted Mary to school every morning and back home each afternoon. They played football in the street with her brother, and on weekends, they would drop by the Ease house to chat with Mary or help her with homework. To Mary's parents, John, Daniel, and Emmanuel were like older brothers to Mary, trustworthy and dependable. If Mary wasn't home, it was common to find her at the boys' house, laughing as they shared stories. Unity Junior Secondary School was a mix of the chaotic and the disciplined, typical of public schools in the region. Mary, despite her small stature, stood out in her JSS 1 class for her academic prowess. She often answered questions no one else could, earning respect even from her older peers. The boys, in JSS 3, were popular for different reasons. John, the leader, was known for his charm, Daniel, the quiet one, for his intelligence, and Emmanuel, the joker, for his humor. Their reputation in school further cemented their role as Mary's protectors. One Saturday, the boys came over to the Ease house. Mary's parents had left early for work, as usual. Chinedu was playing with his friends outside, leaving Mary alone with the boys. John helped her with a science assignment, while Emmanuel cracked jokes, making her laugh so hard that she spilled water on her notebook. They were like family, trustworthy, caring, and protective. Mrs. Ease returned home that evening, smiling as she saw the boys leaving. "You're lucky to have such good friends," she told Mary, unaware of what lay ahead. The following Monday, in basic science class, John and his friends sat at the back of the classroom, half listening as their teacher explained reproduction in humans. What began as a standard lesson on human biology took a turn as the teacher delved deeper, using graphic details to describe the process of conception. Some students snickered, while others listened with rapt attention. For John, Daniel, and Emmanuel, the lesson sparked a mix of curiosity and excitement. During lunch, they whispered about it, their conversation veering into dangerous territory. That evening, the boys gathered at John's house. "I wonder what it's like," Emmanuel said hesitantly. "It's just biology," John replied confidently. "Nothing wrong with being curious." Daniel, usually the cautious one, remained silent, but the seed of curiosity had been planted in all three. Over the next few days, Mary noticed subtle changes in the boys. They whispered among themselves more often and occasionally exchanged glances she couldn't understand. Still, their behavior toward her remained warm and protective. One afternoon, as they walked home, Emmanuel playfully pushed Mary. "You're so tiny," he teased. She laughed, brushing it off. For her, they were still her big brothers. Friday after school, the boys asked Mary to follow them to a nearly completed building near their street. It was a spot they had explored together in the past, a place where they sometimes hung out after school. Trusting them implicitly, Mary agreed without hesitation. The sun was setting as they entered the quiet, unfinished structure. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the faint smell of cement. Mary didn't notice the nervous glances the boys exchanged as they led her deeper into the building. What happened next was a blur of confusion and fear for Mary. The boys' demeanor shifted from playful to something dark and unfamiliar. Their voices, once warm, turned cold as they carried out their horrifying act. Mary's innocence was shattered in that moment. When it was over, the boys threatened her. "Don't you dare tell anyone," John warned. "No one will believe you." Terrified and ashamed, Mary nodded silently. Mary walked home alone that evening, her steps heavy with pain and fear. Her mother, exhausted from work, barely glanced up when Mary entered the house. "Go and change out of your uniform," she said absent-mindedly. Mary obeyed without a word, retreating to her room where she buried her face in her pillow and wept silently. The boys went home, pretending as though nothing had happened. Stay tuned for next part of the story. I don't want to bore you with lengthy video, but I promise that the next part is going to be a roller coaster. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Thank you.